Hi, everyone. My name is Alice Merkel, and thank you for being here today. You are inspiring. I am a city councilor here in Salem and also a longtime volunteer for several Salem organizations, such as the Salem Pantry, the Council on Aging, and the Women's Friends Society. We've been supporting and housing women for 150 years. I had the honor of being a panelist at this event last year, sharing my own story and hearing about the work River House and Lifebridge is doing, helping those most in need. When I reflect back on last year's event and the stories and the compassionate dialogue that was shared, the kindness and empathy expressed from our guests, it had such a profound effect on me and impact. And I feel that same energy in this room today. So really, thank you all for being here. Thank you. As a city councilor, I know firsthand the importance of the city's partnership with Lifebridge and our collaborative efforts, especially between Lifebridge and our Salem Police Community Impact Unit. The city depends on this partnership, especially under extreme conditions, such as the really cold temperatures we experienced this winter. And with my volunteer work, I see firsthand the challenges that women and older adults face. Older women often experience homelessness due to the loss of a spouse or partner. They worked in lower paying careers or took time out of the workforce for caretaking and children. About 64% of single women aged 65 and older in Massachusetts are economically insecure, the highest rate in the country. And adults aged 55 and older are the fastest growing demographic amongst those experiencing homelessness. But as Brittany and Chelsea talked about, data doesn't tell the whole story, people do. A Salem resident in her late 70s was forced to move out of her home because her income no longer covered the rent. She slept in her car and was couch surfing for a year. A Vietnam veteran disabled widow in her late 50s is struggling with rent due to the loss of her husband's income. A 79-year-old woman is living in a hotel room and facing homelessness with rents higher than her Social Security benefits. Those are some of the folks being assisted by our Salem Council on Aging and waiting for affordable public housing, which the wait is often over 3 years. We are in crisis. And today we have with us our three panelists. We have Helen Johnson. Helen has been a case manager at Lifebridge for 3 years, where she oversees and runs all group work and teaches group art. She has a bachelor's in fine arts and a master's in education. She previously worked as a pastor and director at a social service center for 18 years. Of all these accomplishments, she is most proud of her 3 daughters, the eldest of which is in her first year of college. We also have Mary Jane McLennan. Mary Jane, MJ, has been deeply involved in Lifebridge's mission for almost 20 years. A fundraiser and nonprofit consultant, she was the chair of the board of Grace Center in Gloucester until it merged with Lifebridge Northshore. She then became a member of the Lifebridge board and ultimately chair. When Lifebridge's director of development resigned, MJ was hired as interim director. Currently, she is working on Lifebridge's future capital campaign. And when we speak of addressing issues of the elderly, MJ speaks from experience. She is 89 years old. And we also have Dr. Robert Slocum. Dr. Slocum received his undergraduate degree at UMass Amherst, as well as an MPH from UMass. He went to medical school at Thoreau University College of Osteopathic Medicine and completed a family medicine residency at Jamaica Hospital in New York City. He is also completing a graduate certificate in health informatics this spring. He works primarily to provide primary care to persons with substance use disorders, chronic mental illness, and housing insecurity or other vulnerable populations, persons who experience barriers to receiving health care in traditional settings. He has weekly rounds at the Lifebridge Main Shelter in Salem. So thank you again for being here. Thank you to our panelists. So the first question I have is for Helen, and MJ and Dr. Slocum, you're welcome to chime in as well. Helen, can you speak to how an older woman might find herself at a shelter?
Well, as a case manager at Lifebridge, I can speak to actual women who have found themselves in the shelter for various reasons. A few months ago, we had a 70-year-old woman with debilitating arthritis who could barely move. That was due to years of working as a home health aide. She went to her home country in Nigeria to visit her mother, and while she was there, her mother passed away, and she had to stay longer than expected to clear up her estate. When she returned, her landlord had raised her rent, and she was then evicted. She is now, after being at Lifebridge, housed in a Boston senior living facility. We've had an 84-year-old woman who came to Lifebridge directly from Salem Hospital after experiencing some health struggles while staying in hotels with the little funds she had. She was evicted after her Social Security payments lapsed because she missed some paperwork. She is also now housed in a rest home nearby. We have many women come to Lifebridge who look like they're experiencing some acute onset dementia. While it will take months to get actual neurology appointment to confirm that, we can see it. We had an 81-year-old woman come to Lifebridge not too long ago who abandoned her housing. She had wonderful housing in an affluent community and gave it up out of a mental health crisis. After she got the help she needed and we talked with her and worked with her, she went back to try to advocate for that housing, but it was too late. She also, in coincidence, just happened to have some very serious health conditions, and she's now in a hospital getting the care she needs and under hospice care. So as you can see, each case, each person who comes to Lifebridge has very unique, complicated story, but it usually is surrounding some type of mental or physical crisis that is then compounded because of financial reasons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to go ahead?
This is a much bigger deal than I was expecting. Thanks for having me, though. I don't have any special training or expertise in homelessness. I learned about caring for people experiencing homelessness the same way I learned to care for people with addiction, just by listening to them, really. And we hear these stories every Thursday evening when we're at Lifebridge. Almost a new person gives us one of these stories almost every week. And so that's where I've learned about how people experience homelessness, just by hearing them tell us these stories.
And I'll just add a little specificity to this. I was reading recently what the average rent is in my hometown of Gloucester, Massachusetts, and it's $2,300 a month is the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment. I've also read that the average Social Security in the country is about $2,000 a month. So I can imagine that I'm living with my husband and he gets $2,000 and I get $2,000 if I'm lucky enough to have had a good job, and he dies. And the amount that I have left, the $2,000 I have left, certainly isn't adequate to find any kind of housing unless it's subsidized in the town in which I live, and is probably true for the towns in which you live as well. I think it must be, from the perspective of an aged one, I think it must be a terrible comeuppance to have to say, after all these years of work, raising kids or not, but of doing my best to be a good citizen of this country and a contributor to my community, that I cannot find a place to live. And I just will say that I am so grateful to Lifebridge and to people like Helen and people like Chelsea and all the people that I've met along the way. I see people sitting here at the table I know and admire so much for all you've done for the community that we are trying to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, I'll start with Helen. We hear the term housing crisis a lot. Can you dig into that a little?
So yeah, I think one of the first things we have to do is understand definitions. Affordable housing or low-income housing is mentioned a lot. That just means housing that's offered at a lower than market rate amount. It really doesn't offer much to our clients. Like MJ said, subsidized housing is the type of housing that the majority of our clients at Lifebridge will be waiting for. That's housing that's 30% of their income, regardless of what their income is. It's usually offered quicker to those who are elderly or disabled, but anyone can be on a wait list for it. And as was mentioned, the wait list can be 2 to 3, sometimes 4 or 5 years long. So when you have rents rapidly going up and evictions constantly, but the number of subsidized housing stays the same, that creates the crisis we talk about.
Well, I would just say that I work for Northshore Community Health Centers, and we have a clinic in Gloucester, Peabody, and Salem. I work in Gloucester and Salem, in addition to seeing patients at Lifebridge. And it's very unusual for me to see a person who is at least worried about their housing. They feel like they could become homeless, any month. So if that tells you anything, and we have 15,000 patients, so.
And I'll just add a personal note. I've been a renter in Gloucester for about 12 years now, and over that period of time, I have moved 5 times. Not because I couldn't pay the rent or because it was my own choice. It was because the circumstances of the rental changed. People who had houses that they were willing to let out for rent now want to live in them or want to sell them. It's just I don't see how the problem is going to go backwards. I think it is a really serious issue, and whatever we can do for affordable housing, I think, is in our very best interests.
Thank you. That's an excellent point, the turnover of properties. Yeah, and just even the circumstances change. Yeah, and then the cost to get into a new place. Yeah, with first, last month's rent. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that. My next question, I'll start with Dr. Slocum. Can we talk a little bit about the unique healthcare and aging challenges you see with older women and how they can complicate an issue like housing insecurity?
Yeah, I think the big problem that we see is, the first thing I would say is that, if you look at it from a public health perspective, illness worsens poverty and poverty worsens illness. Like, we know that that's a sort of bi-directional relationship, regardless of, lifestyle or other factors. But certainly I think, obviously the women we see, they have a lot of mobility issues, potentially transportation issues. I think I see a lot of women that have chronic respiratory illness, and being in a communal setting can be really hard for them. Just like using the bathroom, a lot of older women have urinary incontinence, and it's really hard for them to get to the bathroom or to find that there's a line for the bathroom when they get there. So these are a lot of the challenges that we see women facing, and there's only so much that we can do at Lifebridge. So getting them to the clinic or getting them to the hospital for a mammogram, it's all like really challenging. I think being in, I work in suburban communities, and I think that to me they seem like they can be a lot more isolating in terms of lack of just harder public transportation. Things are not really super walkable. So does that answer the question?
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
The only thing I want to add is just a thank you to Salem Family Health, because the partnership there has been amazing. We see women come in crisis who have spent all their money and all their time, all their energy on just surviving. So their health has kind of taken a back seat. And you ask them if they have a primary care or if they have health insurance or other things like that, and they don't even know where to start. So being able to right away send a quick email to Salem Family Health or some other provider, there's amazing resources in the area. So it's just been great to be able to do that.
And I'll just say, again, a little bit from a personal perspective, I can't imagine trying to manage my old age in River House. It's down a flight of stairs to the bunk beds. I couldn't possibly get up on the top bunk bed. If I got there, I couldn't get down unless I threw myself off it. The bottom bunk bed is probably too low for me to get in and out of easily. I am physically compromised, of course, being my age, and I don't expect to miraculously feel like I'm 60 again, with all due respect. So you look at the physical decline and you think it's probably going to continue. I can't rent a second floor apartment. I couldn't possibly carry my groceries up to a second floor and get up there and be there safely. So there are certain indigenous handicaps with age that make where you live really challenging.
Thank you. Next, I'll start with Helen. Lifebridge offers many services and support, but we know there are sometimes barriers to receiving those services. What unique barriers do older women face?
So I talked with my fellow case managers, and we kind of agreed that for older women, one of the biggest struggles that we see is just the struggle to accept their current situation, believe it or not. As we age, there are many difficulties we're going to face, regardless of our housing situation. Children moving out, retiring, not being able to drive anymore, or not even be able to live on our own, sometimes due to safety. These alone can cause anxiety and stress. If you couple that with the financial stress or of eviction or being homeless, it just makes it worse. Sometimes I sit with a new client attempting to do an intake, and I ask them what I think is simple questions. What is your income? Things like that. And I can see on their face this shock that they can't believe they're in this situation. And that shock almost paralyzes them where they can't remember things, and they're just in a state of frazzle and panic. After they're able to get through that, or it could be that a spouse or older child handled their finances, so they really don't know much. Or many could be very private and just don't want to share things, so it's difficult opening up. Then after they get through that initial shock and we're able to build some trust with them, we find a lot of elderly adults struggle with just the maintaining life in the shelter. Being able to navigate transport and download rideshare apps can be difficult if they even have a phone. Many do not have a phone and struggle with trying to figure that out. And then they worry about figuring out applications and DTA paperwork and navigating all of that. And many have undiagnosed anxiety or depression that can just be completely exasperated in this type of situation. So those are some of the barriers, but I will say that case management at Lifebridge, we work one-on-one with them weekly, sometimes daily, to get through those barriers.
This is something I'm very familiar with, and maybe you are as well. When to ask for help. When to acknowledge that you need help. I find myself very dependent on the serenity prayer, that I have the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the strength, the courage to accept the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the wisdom is the big one. When does asking for help make me look weak and make me feel that I will never be able to do that again? If I ask for help to get up these stairs in the back, which I didn't need, thank you, Peabody, Essex, does that mean I will never be able to go upstairs like that again? Or is it better for me to ask for help so that I can be helped at this particular minute rather than incur some kind of trauma that will make me more disabled in the future? And it's a hard one. If you've been an independent woman, without those words that Tiffany had to describe our perseverance and our courage, to have to say, I just can't do this. And I'm sure that that keeps people from moving forward with Lifebridge. And may I just quickly say, my 3 daughters are here today from around different places in the country, and if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be on this stage. So, thank you.
Okay, for our next question, I'll start with Dr. Slocum. What mental health challenges does this population face, and how does it impact or contribute to housing insecurity?
Yeah, I think obviously this is a big topic, but I think we all know, and I would include addiction under the umbrella of mental illness, because addiction is a behavioral condition. It's when a substance sort of derails our ability to be a parent or a spouse or work a job. But anyways, I think obviously we all know we treat mental illness and physical illness very different. I think it's important to realize that the stigma of mental illness creates a lot of barriers and problems, even for a person to engage with us at the shelter. They really have to know that we're not going to treat them rudely like they often get treated in the healthcare system. But I think for us at the shelter, I think sometimes it's difficult in terms of older women to sort of kind of tease out what's mental illness, what is cognitive decline, dementia. I think courage is a great word, resilience. So these are women that are very savvy and able to navigate a lot of things, and sometimes they can sort of compensate for some cognitive issues that aren't obvious to us right away. And so it's kind of like peeling the layers of the onion. We get to know your blood pressure, and then we get to know your mental illness, and then we sort of find out what's going on slowly over time. But yeah, it's definitely a big issue that we see a lot of.
Yes.
You want to say something, Helen? No. I think one of the issues, and I may just be speaking for myself, but there is and I wonder if you find this, that there is a fear of what is happening to you and whether or not you're going to be able to live comfortably for the rest of your life, whether that's physically or mentally or emotionally or with community or without community. But I just will say, for people that I talk to who are my age, we don't fear death. We do fear how we're going to die. And are places that are supporting us able to cope with whatever is going to come our way. And anyway, that's what I think I see most prevalently amongst the elders.
Thank you. And for our final question, we'll start with MJ. MJ, what should the role of our community play in addressing these challenges? All of us.
Well, here's community. If we ever saw it in the flesh, this is it. And I would hope and pray that all of us could move in community with everyone we meet and everywhere we meet them. I hope that for my own small community. I hope that for my town. I hope that for my country. I know that in Gloucester, one of the things that I try to do when I see someone on the street is to say hello. And I have suggested when people come up to me and say, what can I do? I don't have good deep resources. I'm not going to give a lot of money. But how can I help? One of the things you can do is to treat every person you see on the street as a fellow human being. But I had to learn that through Lifebridge. I have learned so much through Lifebridge. It has made a real change in my life. And I would say that most of the people who've been involved with Lifebridge over these years would say the same thing. I grew up in what I recognized was a privileged community and a privileged way of living. And to me, that meant that I had the option to go to private school. I took some tennis lessons. I was at a beach in the summer. That was privilege. After working at Lifebridge or being involved in Lifebridge for these past 20 years, my idea of privilege has changed completely. I now feel very privileged to get into a bed at night that is my own, where my sheets are clean and the bed is mine, and that I know that in my cupboards I have enough food to last me a month. I know that there are people around me who care for me and who can help me when I need it. And that now is my idea of privilege. And it's taken me a while to learn it, but I'm just so grateful to Lifebridge for helping me live my own values. Thank you.
Well, I would just say that I've also learned a lot from Lifebridge, and this poem, Nancy's poem that's in the pamphlet here, "Lived a Life." I mean, I feel like that really captures it all, and just the sort of, we feel enriched when we go to Lifebridge. We feel enriched by the community that's created by the staff and the clients there. We feel enriched by the resilience and the humanity and the authenticity of the people that we meet there. And I think the thing that Nancy really touches on here, I think, is values, what we value versus what we devalue. And I think, no one should be unsheltered, but I think the fact that we're sitting here talking about elderly women being unsheltered, I think that should cause us to look in the mirror and kind of reflect on what our values are as a society.
And I would answer to the question, what can our community do to address some of these challenges? Honestly, what you're doing now and more. Supporting organizations like Lifebridge. And I say that after working with many, many nonprofit organizations. Lifebridge doesn't just give quick fixes or quick handouts. It understands that individuals are complicated and unique and have various different situations. And each older woman, each person in crisis needs not only shelter, but a qualified, educated, experienced person to come alongside them and guide them through their complex journey. By donating to Lifebridge, you're supporting an agency that meets people right where they're at in the moment of crisis, no matter how crazy or different it looks, and then helps them get through to a point of stability. Even when they feel like they've exhausted all resources, we keep motivating them to keep trying. And then once they get to a place of sheltered or what looks like stability, we stay with them and help them in that fear of the difference of being alone. Lifebridge doesn't just offer a temporary bed, it trains and trusts its case managers to invest deeply in each person we work with.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to all of our panelists. Really, we appreciate you being here, not only being here today, but for all the incredibly impactful and important work that you are doing. Thank you so much, really. really. Yep.